Hello, accountability buddies. It's Les with another episode of Less is More Healthy, coming to you on a brilliant, sunny, chilly day here in Massachusetts. I'm running some errands as I usually am when I'm recording these videos. And today I have a difficult topic to discuss. And I'm struggling. I've recorded like 5 versions of this already. I'm struggling with how to talk about this topic without getting into specific details because it's still an ongoing issue that is unresolved, although there is a plan of resolution in place. Um, and so this has been an ongoing issue that causes me a great deal of stress. And 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks, a while ago, we'll say 2 weeks ago, I met up with a friend of mine. This is someone that I meet up with on a regular basis, but not frequently. And we have these great conversations where sometimes, like, as I'm struggling with something, she just like pulls it apart and names the issue in a way that it just hits me over the head as like, shit, you're right. Why didn't I see that? And so I was explaining this situation to her, and I was able to go into much greater detail with her, um, because I knew that there was no chance of the conversation getting back to someone where it might impact me negatively. So, um, yeah, I'm explaining the situation, and she just named the behavior as really toxic behavior and bullying and gaslighting. Every situation, she was just like, you know, that's that person is gaslighting you. Wow, that really sounds like you're being bullied, or like it sounds like they don't respect you. And like every point I made was labeled. And at the end of the conversation, or like within the conversation, I just sat there kind of in shock, and like, god damn, you're totally right. And she's always right. It's one of those kind of situations where we have this back and forth sort of mentorship and conversation of like being really real with one another. And it's just such a beneficial friendship. I hope she gets half as much out of our conversations as I get from her. Um, and so, she and I are having this conversation. I'm like having mind blowing epiphany at one after another. Um, and, uh, at the end of it, I realized I have to do something about it, because as I'm like having this conversation, she's naming these behaviors. I'm putting two and two together, and I'm seeing how this is stressing me out, not just in this portion of my life, but in the rest of my life, and how it's impacting the rest of my life. And I'm not saying that this interaction with this person is fully responsible. I'm fully responsible for my responses to situations and conversations and being gaslit. Um, but it was really nice to hear from someone who wasn't directly involved in the situation, to basically be supportive and be like, yeah, you're being fucked with. So um, I finished that conversation, came home, did some journaling around it, and realized I really have to do something to make some change in this. So and this is where I'm going to struggle for the right words to describe this situation, and the potential for resolution. So, uh, yeah, this I'm probably going to have to do some nifty editing here. Um, so I did some journaling, really thought deeply about it, decided I needed to make some change. But I also was able to see after that conversation how it was impacting my life. I have been incredibly stressed out, and that stress really manifests in me as anxiety. I do have an anxiety disorder, um, which feels really strange to say. So I have this anxiety issue, and I haven't really felt this level of anxiety in many, many years. I've been had been able to really deal with a lot of my anxiety in a way that diminishes it pretty quickly. But this was a thing that I felt the anxiety was building and building and building in a way I hadn't felt in a very long time. So it took me a hot minute to be able to say, put my finger on it and be like, oh, this thing is what is causing me more anxiety. And once I had that sort of realization and epiphany, I was much more able to come up with a plan to resolve some of these issues that were causing me anxiety. So, with this epiphany, if you will, I was able to have some additional conversations that were very, very uncomfortable and extremely difficult to have. Um, and as soon as I started having those conversations, I started to feel better. I started to feel a reduction in my anxiety. I just generally felt better, um, which is pretty common for anxiety. Like if you have an anxiety issue, once you start making strides and plans to help resolve the issue, you start to feel better. Um, so there's a plan in place that's going to help reduce this issue. So I want to talk a little bit about how this anxiety was impacting me. So as I look back um, at where I was feeling anxious, um, and also the stress that led to the anxiety, um, I realized that there was a direct line from that stressor to the anxiety and to things like my low motivation, my difficulty in forming coherent responses to the stress. And that I think is really common when you're gaslit, and someone is going out of their way to make things difficult for you because it's easier for them, or perhaps they enjoy it. Um, and I'm not saying this person enjoys making my life more difficult. I'm just saying, like, sometimes people enjoy conflict. Conflict can be healthy, saying no can be healthy. But there's also a type of conflict that, if it's never resolved, then that's not healthy. Um, a person has to respect and care for you enough to make changes in their behavior once that's labeled. Like, if someone knows that they are causing you stress and anxiety, and you go to them and say, hey, you're doing this thing and it's harming me, they have to give a shit enough to stop. And I think, as I have been dealing with this issue, um, and I've been setting limits and boundaries with this person, that, they're, in some sense, they have stopped some of their behaviors. But in other cases, it's gotten more insidious and more sneaky. And so that's where I think the difficulty in this lies, in that when someone else is actively doing you harm through gaslighting, bullying, and toxic behaviors, how do you identify that when it's insidious and sneaky? And that's the thing that I've really been struggling with, is that sort of insidious, sneaky behavior that, you can't really put your finger on it in terms of why it's bothering you. And so that has really, from this one spot in my life, filtered out and had way more impact on me than I really had any idea. And that is where I'm at right now. So there is a plan in place to stop this. Hopefully in a couple of weeks, I will no longer have to deal with this person as often as I do currently, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to the idea that this person won't be able to gaslight me or bully me anymore. And it's a really difficult thing, I think. I feel really uncomfortable going to report this kind of issue because I'm a 80s and 90s kid. I'm Gen X. Like, we don't narc on people, and it feels like I'm narking on someone, and that just feels really uncool. um but also, like, that idea of like not being a narc, I think that very much is used as a tool by people who are toxic. Like, they don't want you to narc on them. They want you to accept this kind of behavior from them, even though it's very much intolerable. It is designed to be unsettling and difficult and hard to put your finger on. That's what manipulative people do. So, anyway, hopefully, this situation will be resolved. My life will stop being so chaotic, and my motivation will go up, and I'll generally feel better. And I have to say that after I had some of these conversations, I genuinely felt better, even though they were really, really difficult. Also, like, I don't know, I still have weird feelings about it because I don't, yeah. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say thank you for being here. I enjoy the comments, the interaction on the channel, the thumbs up, the likes, all of that stuff. Hit that subscribe button if you're so inclined. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.